Imagine a world without electricity, without microchips, without screens, a world where human intellect was honed by the logic of philosophers and the secrets of the universe were sought through the simplest of observations. This was the brilliant Hellenistic age, a period more than 2,000 years ago when the light of knowledge radiated from centers like Alexandria. This was where humanity's greatest minds, like Archimedes, challenged the limits of science and technology, creating an atmosphere of passionate discovery. This was the era of immense libraries and fervent debates about the very nature of the world. But could you believe that even in that era, a machine so complex that it took modern science almost a century to decipher had already existed? An artifact known as humanity's first computer lay dormant on the seabed, waiting to tell the story of a civilization lost to time. The story begins on a fateful autumn day in 1901. A group of Greek sponge divers had to take shelter on a small island after a sudden storm. When the sea calmed, they decided to dive for sponges off the coast of Antikythera. In the deep abyss, where sunlight was nothing more than a faint glimmer, they felt the pressure of the water on their bodies and saw only a murky visibility, limited by sediment. But then, amidst the hazy darkness, a magnificent sight came into view. It was a colossal Roman merchant ship which had been resting there since the 1st century BC. The ship was a massive treasure trove containing priceless works of art. Among tons of bronze statues, marble, pottery, and precious coins, the divers found a small, rusted lump of metal that looked utterly worthless. It was heavily corroded, fused with pieces of rotted wood, and appeared no different than a useless rock. But when one curious diver turned it over, he saw something no one had ever expected: an intricate system of gears crafted from bronze. Although it was covered by a thick layer of coral and rust, the mechanical details inside hinted at an incredible secret. The lump of metal, along with the other artifacts, was salvaged and transferred to the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. However, it was quickly relegated to a corner, forgotten for over 50 years. Amidst countless exquisite works of art, the archaeologists of the time simply couldn't grasp its significance. They had no frame of reference. It was too different from everything they knew about ancient technology. Most dismissed it as a crude mechanical clock, a primitive relic with no special value. The mysterious lump lay dormant, waiting for a mind curious enough and a technology advanced enough to uncover its secrets. It was in the 1950s that the British science historian, Derek Price, became obsessed with this lump of metal. With tireless perseverance, he began to study it. He used X-rays to peer through the thick, corroded shell. What he saw was astonishing. Dozens of gears hidden inside, designed with incredible precision. After years of research, he presented a bold hypothesis. This was not a clock, but a mechanical computer. His theory was widely rejected by many, as it contradicted everything known about ancient science. The true breakthrough came in the 2000s. An international team of scientists collaborated, using the most advanced technology available. They used 3D CT scans to image every fragment of the machine. This technique allowed them to create a detailed, millimeter-by-millimeter map, revealing the entire internal structure. The initial X-ray scans had shown ghosts of the gears, but 3D CT technology transformed those ghosts into a complete model, allowing scientists to delve into every corner of the machine. The results truly changed history, inside the outer casing. Scientists found a matrix of 37 complex bronze gears, connected in a perfect and intricate system. Each gear was designed with a specific number of teeth, adhering to mathematical ratios with astonishing precision. Some of the gears were only a few millimeters wide, showing incredible sophistication. The scientists also deciphered over 3,000 ancient Greek characters etched onto the surface, which were the machine's operating instructions. So what was this machine for? It wasn't a simple clock. The Antikythera Mechanism was a sophisticated astronomical computer, designed to track the cycles of the sun and moon and accurately predict solar and lunar eclipses. It also modeled the movements of the planets known at the time: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, within a geocentric model of the universe. Its accuracy was incredible, capable of predicting astronomical events with only a small margin of error. What's more, the machine had an unexpected function. It could calculate the exact dates for ancient athletic festivals, including the Olympic Games, which were based on a complex cycle. The Antikythera Mechanism was a miniature model of the cosmos, a work of mechanical genius that showed the astronomical and engineering prowess of the ancient Greeks far exceeded our imagination. A major question still remains: who created this extraordinary machine? We don't have a precise answer, but there are a few compelling theories. Many scholars believe the machine was built by the great mathematician Archimedes in the city of Syracuse, or by the famous Greek astronomer Hipparchus. Ancient texts describe a similar device created by Archimedes, but no one believed it had ever truly existed. Evidence suggests the machine was likely made in a workshop in Rhodes or Syracuse around 205 BC. It might have been brought on the ill-fated ship by a philosopher, an astronomer, or a wealthy merchant. Perhaps it was a teaching tool, a precious gift, or simply an artifact showcasing the incredible intellect and skill of its creator. Whatever its purpose, it remains an undeniable testament to the greatness of human ingenuity. The Antikythera Mechanism has completely changed our perception of ancient technology. It has shattered the hypothesis that after the great minds like Archimedes and Hipparchus, a dark age of technology occurred until the Renaissance. This machine proves that a level of engineering sophistication believed impossible for that era had not only existed, but might have been a part of a larger lost tradition. It is a reminder that history always contains undiscovered secrets. It is living proof that human intellect transcends time. And its story serves as a powerful reminder. Even when great civilizations fall and their knowledge is buried under soil or deep in the sea, it still waits to be discovered. This first computer, sunk in a shipwreck, survived for thousands of years in the ocean's darkness to finally tell the story of a civilization that had reached for the stars.
Let us move on to the next story, the Voynich manuscript, the book no one can read. Imagine an ancient book written in a language that has never existed on Earth. Its pages are adorned with strange illustrations, peculiar plants that don't seem real, intricate astronomical diagrams, and images of naked women bathing in a mysterious green liquid. This book has existed for centuries, challenging every cryptographer, every linguist, and every great mind in human history. It is called the Voynich manuscript, and it is one of the world's greatest mysteries. This manuscript is a small book about 240 pages thick, made from vellum, a material crafted from untreated calfskin. Its size is only about 15 by 23 centimeters, fitting perfectly in your hands. But its true weight is not in its physical dimensions, but in the unanswered questions it brings. The manuscript is handwritten from start to finish, with graceful, flowing script. And although it has no punctuation or spaces, the words have a rhythm of their own, repeating in a perplexing way. The story of the Voynich manuscript begins with a man named Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish rare book dealer. In 1912, he found this book in the library of a Jesuit university in Frascati, near Rome. It was a purchase that seemed like a minor bargain, but it unlocked a mystery that has lasted for more than a century. Voynich acquired the book from this library where it had been kept for a long time, but its exact origin remains a mystery. Before it reached Voynich's hands, the manuscript went on a long and complex journey, passing through the possession of many European scholars, alchemists, and emperors. One of its most famous owners was Emperor Rudolf II of the Holy Roman Empire, who was known as a collector of rare books and mystical objects. He bought the book for an enormous sum of money, believing it contained the secrets of the universe. Afterward, the book belonged to many different people, including scholars in Prague and Rome, but none of them could decipher it. So, what is the book's content? The manuscript is divided into several sections, each with its own peculiar subject. The first part is called Herbal. This section contains images of about 113 species of plants, each with a brief description in the Voynich language. However, the strange thing is that none of these plants can be identified as a species that has ever existed. Some appear to be a combination of different plants, while others are completely products of imagination. Scientists have tried to compare these drawings with thousands of known plant species, but all efforts have been in vain. This leads to a question. Do these plants really exist, or are they symbols for something else? Perhaps they are plants from legends, or symbols for constellations, gods, or universal principles. The second part is astronomical. This section contains complex diagrams of stars, zodiac signs, the sun, and the moon, but they are drawn in a way that is completely unfamiliar to Western astronomy. There are images of strange animals accompanying the constellations, and diagrams that seem to be maps of a non-existent universe. One of the most notable drawings is of the sun and moon, which are depicted as cartoon-like figures holding hands, with a series of small circles surrounding them. Is this a complex calendar system, or a completely new model of the cosmos? The third part is biological, and this is perhaps the strangest section. It depicts naked women, seemingly bathing in a green liquid, connected to each other by a network of pipes and bizarre body parts. No one knows what these images represent, a religious ritual, a medical document, or something else entirely. Some suggest this is a book on gynecology or about childbirth. The images, with their network of pipes, might be a schematic description of the body's circulatory system, but with an entirely different interpretation from modern medicine. The fourth part is called pharmacological. This section contains images of jars, bottles, and roots, perhaps a book on pharmacology. However, the images and accompanying text do not match any known medical book. The jars and bottles have very specific shapes, some resembling animals, while others look like strange machines. This suggests they are not just simple tools, but could also be symbols of an esoteric pharmaceutical system. And the final part is just a series of short paragraphs, divided into smaller sections and marked by strange flowers. There are no images accompanying this section, making it one of the most perplexing parts of the manuscript. For decades, the Voynich manuscript has been the target of the world's best cryptographers and linguists. After World War I, one of America's leading code breakers, William Friedman, who had deciphered many important enemy codes, spent decades trying to crack the Voynich manuscript. He formed a research group, but they all failed. During the Cold War, the most advanced computers were used to analyze the frequency of words, but the results only deepened the mystery. From these failures, many different theories have been put forward. Some believe the Voynich manuscript is a sophisticated hoax. They argue that someone in the Middle Ages created it simply to deceive a wealthy collector. This theory is based on the fact that the book lacks many typical linguistic features and seems to be created randomly. However, recent studies have shown that the language in the manuscript has statistical features similar to a natural language, making the hoax theory less convincing. Another theory is that it is a lost language or a language created to encode an important message. Perhaps this was a language used by a secret tribe or group, and it was lost to history. Or it is a complex cipher created by someone with a deep knowledge of cryptography, and the key to deciphering it has been lost. Some people believe that it is a medical or magical text containing secret recipes for herbs or religious rituals. Perhaps the writer was an alchemist, an astrologer, or a sorcerer who wanted to keep their secrets from others. However, perhaps the most fascinating theory is that it is a work from an alien being. The Voynich manuscript still rests quietly in the library of Yale University, still an unsolved mystery. It is proof that sometimes the most important questions have no answers. And perhaps the true beauty of this book is not in the fact that we can read it, but in the wonder and endless imagination that it inspires. Finally, the story of the Rosetta Stone, the key to a silent civilization. For over 14 centuries, the great civilization of ancient Egypt had been completely silent. The colossal statues, the magnificent temples, and the monumental pyramids still stood there, telling a story of glory. But no one could read a single word of the thousands of inscriptions etched into their walls. Hieroglyphs, a complex and mysterious writing system, had become a labyrinth with no key to enter. European scholars could only admire, but not understand. They knew a priceless treasure of knowledge was there, yet they were powerless before a sealed door. But then, on a fateful day, a key appeared. It was in July 1799, during Napoleon Bonaparte's expedition to Egypt. A French army officer named Pierre-François Bouchard commanded a group of soldiers to dismantle an old wall of a fortress near the town of Rosetta. Amidst the rubble, they found a large, black slab of stone, covered with rows of writing. The stone slab was about 112 centimeters in height and 76 centimeters in width, made of dark granodiorite rock. It wasn't magnificent like a sculpture, but its discovery would change the entire field of archaeology. What was special about the stone was that it bore 3 completely different scripts. The top part was in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. The middle part was in Demotic, a later, everyday form of Egyptian script, and the bottom was in ancient Greek. Immediately, French and later British scholars recognized its importance. They believed that all 3 texts contained the same content, like a multilingual dictionary. If they could translate the Greek section, they would have the key to deciphering the 2 remaining Egyptian scripts. The race to decipher the Rosetta Stone began. For years, scholars from all over Europe tried to translate the stone, but no one could do it completely. Among them, 2 men stood out the most: Thomas Young, an English physicist and doctor, and Jean-François Champollion, a young French linguist. Thomas Young was a genius in many fields. He found some signs and realized that certain hieroglyphs enclosed in an oval loop, called cartouches, probably represented the names of kings. He successfully identified the names of Pharaoh Ptolemy Futh and Cleopatra. but he still believed that hieroglyphs were primarily symbolic, not a phonetic system. Meanwhile, Jean-François Champollion was a linguistic prodigy. He had dedicated his life to studying the Egyptian language and believed that hieroglyphs were a complex combination of both symbolic and phonetic characters. He realized that the Demotic script and the hieroglyphs were not completely separate, but were closely related. By comparing the names of Ptolemy and Cleopatra from the Rosetta Stone and another inscription, he identified a series of hieroglyphic characters and their corresponding sounds. Finally, in 1822, he announced that he had deciphered the ancient Egyptian writing. The content of the Rosetta Stone was a decree issued by Pharaoh Ptolemy V in 1906 BC. The decree was issued to announce a number of new laws, reduce taxes for temples and priests, and praise the pharaoh. It was not a grand secret, nor did it contain stories of gods or buried treasures. But being able to translate it opened a massive door. The deciphering of the Rosetta Stone did not just help us understand this decree. It unlocked the entire civilization of ancient Egypt. Scholars could now read thousands of texts, the stories etched on temple walls, tombs, and papyrus scrolls. We could read about the history, religion, medicine, architecture, and even the daily life of the Egyptians. From that information, we came to understand the gods they worshipped, the rituals they performed, and the stories of great kings like Ramesses II and Tutankhamun. The Rosetta Stone, an artifact that seemed lifeless, has become a symbol of human discovery and intellect. It is living proof that sometimes history's biggest secrets are not found in glittering treasures, but are hidden in a script that seemed impossible to decipher.